welcome to KCRW. Welcome to Morning Becomes Eclectic. And right out the gate, I want to ask you, you're a native of Scotland. I want to know what the dance music scene was like out there for you.
It's pretty good, actually, to be honest. I think there's quite a lot of good artists coming through from Scotland right now. I think I grew up in Edinburgh, which sort of historically has not as great a reputation for kind of, not just dance music, but kind of music in general. Whereas the city that's about an hour away, Glasgow, that's got an amazing reputation. But more recently, in the past 5 or 6 years, Edinburgh's really leveled up and it's actually got a really good scene.
What was it like growing up in Scotland? How did you get into dance music?
I think probably the same way most people, like it was going to clubs. I'd always been into music. I'd been writing music since I was about 14, maybe even younger than that, playing instruments in bands and stuff. But then when I started going clubbing, maybe like, 17, something like that, you end up just getting more into that side of things. And it's something I hadn't really been exposed to that much. Or the only dance music I'd heard was the kind of stuff that was on sort of commercial radio. But then going to clubs and finding kind of deeper cuts, I was like, oh, this is actually amazing. So yeah, it was more through that, I think, really. Really
getting involved in the scene locally where you were.
Yeah, I was always out, if that's involved. Do you know what I mean? I was always like at clubs and I was always at parties and stuff like that. Like there's a street down Edinburgh called the Cowgate, which just has like kind of, it's a really small street. It's got about maybe 3-4 clubs on it that are all amazing. And that's sort of the center of the scene. It's really nice because whenever the clubs finish, everyone kind of pours out onto the same street and you'd see the same people. It's not a massive city, maybe 500,000 people. So you'd see the same people and everyone would go back to someone's house for an afters and you kind of get to know everyone that way. So it was nice in that sense that all the kind of clubs were in literally one kind of street that I would be. You'd sort of see the same people all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
One thing I want to touch on is you have a remarkable setup here. The piano, the keys, very significant in all of your live performances. I want to know the significance of why you have the piano front and center.
Well, it's sort of where I start most of my ideas, I think. Usually, at least for my album that I just put out last year, most of it started from sitting down at a piano, playing some chords, and it's what I'm most comfortable with as well. I've played piano since I was maybe, 10. So everything's kind of built around it. The songs, and also for me, my live setup, it's like, it needs to be front and center, I think.
I love that. And you've been so good at developing an expertise at being able to blend so many different important moments of percussive elements, whether it's African or Latin, tribal. What kind of inspired you to make that kind of music and blend it in with dance pop melodies?
Well, it's not really a conscious thing, to be honest. I never try and think too much about what I'm writing because I think then you can get too in your head and that's maybe not a good place to be when you're writing music. You're kind of better to just be going with the flow and just experiencing something. So that's just stuff that I listen to be honest with you. And it's kind of a byproduct of that. Like I'm into so much different kinds of music and it just sort of feeds through that way. It's not really, I've never like sat down and thought I want to kind of blend this genre and this genre. It's just kind of happened. And yeah, I sort of go through phases. Like there's been times when I will have been writing like ambient music and I'm like, oh man, I've not written anything that's not ambient for like 3 months. What am I going to do? And then it's just a phase. And then I'm like, oh no, I can't stop writing like this or whatever. So yeah, it's not really an intentional thing, to be honest. It's just a byproduct of being into lots of different stuff.
What kind of music do you get into to kind of set the vibe before you get producing?
I honestly don't know. I usually start producing pretty early, so I don't usually listen to too much. I'm like straight in and like, boom. I like to kind of start in the morning. I think that's when I'm kind of, really morning and then late at night is when I'm kind of at my most creative, I think. Like, I've still got fresh ideas, so... Yeah, I don't actually do that too often. I'm usually just straight in and like just try and get the workflow going straight away.
Straight into the process.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
I want to ask you a fun question.
Sure.
So I heard that you took this really epic cross-country hitchhiking trip.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
And now that you are an established artist, performing at all these huge festivals, performing here, how has your writing and style changed versus when you did that experience?
Oh, well, I mean, that was like, I was literally couch surfing. I was just like staying on people's couches across America. I think it's changed a lot. Like I wasn't even a musician then. I was working in like a supermarket. which is why I was couch surfing. I couldn't afford to do anything. So I was just crashing to people's couches. It was really nice. Like the first time I came out here and started touring, I met all these great people who put me up for free, stayed in touch with them. They've stayed at mine in Edinburgh. And then, when I first did a tour out here, they've all come to the shows. Every time I play in New York, one of my mates, Adam's, come to every single show. He's come through from Philly for it every single time. It's been really nice, kind of coming. I was literally not even sleeping on his couch. I was on his floor. There was nothing. And now he's at these shows and he's like, what happened, man? So it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool full circle moment. You went from the floor to the couch to the
floor
to the main
to the stage. Yeah,
from the floor to the stage.
That's the story of my time out here. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, we're gonna get back to the music, but before we do that, if everybody listening, if you're headed out back to the desert, make sure you catch Barry Can't Swim throwing down Sunday at 8:20 p.m. on the Go Be stage.
That's right.
Thank you so much for joining us. My name is SiLVA. You're listening to Morning Becomes Eclectic on 89.9 KCRW. And we're getting back to the music with Barry Can't Swim.
Cheers. Thank you.